this podcast is kind of a little idea we've had of just, we want to provide an informal space where we can discuss topics around TTRPGs like D&D and share our insights, perceptions, and our experiences about it. Hopefully we'll get people thinking a little bit more deeper about the kind of wonderful world that is D&D, and maybe later down the line we'll go into some of the bigger issues and stuff that's kind of plaguing our favourite hobby right now. Later on in this podcast, we're going to dive into a little segment where we'll read some fun or maybe some controversial D&D horror stories and talk about problem players and crazy DMs and see what we think. And then maybe at the end we'll just round off with just like a little insight into you and me away from the table. Before we get too far into this, I feel like it's important on a first episode that we introduce ourselves properly.
Yeah.
So I'll go. I'm Jacob. I'm 23. I'm born in Scotland. I'm a history and criminology major in university, and I've been interested in and playing D&D since I was about 14 years old.
Damn.
Yeah.
You're old.
I know I am. It's the first time someone who is any older than me hears that and hears I'm old is going to despise me.
Well, so I'm Jade. I'm 21. I'm in my first year of social science in college. But I also have my own little YouTube channel on the side where what do I do in my YouTube channel?
You talk about, you talk about controversial things.
Yep.
TikTok scandals, mental health.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Like, stuff that matters that a lot of people just aren't paying enough attention to, or that people, for the most part, are aware exists, but just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm Scottish, and I've been interested in D&D since I was 13.
Jeez.
But I didn't start playing until I was like 17 or something.
Before we go on any further, like, we've introduced ourselves, but we should also be very clear. We are two people that play D&D together a lot now.
Yeah.
You and I are in my homebrew kind of D&D 5e classic high fantasy game in my world called Arazeth. And we are 33 sessions deep into that. So we've been playing that for a long time now. It's been going on for about a year and a half, but you were a latecomer joiner. You joined maybe over 6 months ago now, 8 months ago,
Yeah, about that.
something like that, which
Yeah.
means you've nearly been there like half the time you've been playing, although not half the sessions because our schedules were less conflicting.
Yeah.
So we've been playing it less often, but we're still playing quite a fair bit. Although as of recording, it's been a month since the last session.
Whole month.
A whole
and
month.
It left on a cliffhanger.
Oh, I left a good cliffhanger as
You're
well.
evil.
I'm the best.
Evil, literally. my character is like ready to go, ready to fire.
Oh yeah, but
You're evil.
yeah. So you're a player in my campaign. A friend of ours is also starting a Vampire the Masquerade campaign, which both of us get to be players in.
Yep.
As a forever DM, so happy. And we've also got other friends that have, got like ideas brewing for future campaigns as well. So we're constantly talking about D&D.
Yeah.
And it's part of the reason why we're making this podcast is like we talk about D&D hours every day.
Because we'll have our breakfast in the morning,
Yes.
and we'll sit in the kitchen and have our little D&D talk.
Just chat about D&D. Chat about anything. Because
Yeah.
like I feel like you and I, this is going to sound very like tooting my own horn, but we have a lot to say.
Yeah.
I just feel like we have a lot. There's a lot of issues and
Very
stuff that come up.
opinionated.
We are very, very opinionated people. Yeah. So the subject of our very first podcast, I thought the best thing to do is, like many characters in D&D, we should address our backstories. Now, I'm not talking about major personal life stuff. Maybe we'll get into that later
So
in
when
another
I was
one.
7,
But I think the main thing is talking about how we found D&D, because for a lot of newcomers to D&D, I think nowadays more and more people find it in more obscure ways and also more mainstream ways. And the mainstream way of finding D&D has changed in the last 10 years compared to before. how you and I found D&D is slightly different, and that's interesting. Everyone finds it in unique ways. So we'll start talking about that, and then we'll maybe talk about like our first times playing, maybe if we've had like how our experiences were, how we felt about the game at the time, and how that's maybe changed. And then maybe if we've got a bit of time, we'll just talk about our very first PCs, our first characters we made. But yeah, you know what? Let's start with, how did you find out about D&D, or that it existed?
Oh, am I going first?
You're absolutely going first.
Okay. I need you to stay with me for this one.
I'm here. I'm buckled in and ready.
Mine's was a very mainstream way.
Horrific.
So when I was like 12 or about 12. Before that. I was really into The Last of Us. You know where I'm going.
Oh yeah, I know where you're going with this. As soon as you said that, I know where you're going.
So I was really into The Last of Us, and I was like, do you know what? I could be a voice actor. I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I do theatre.
Yes.
I like acting.
An actor.
So I was on Instagram, as you do, stalking Laura Bailey.
Oofed.
Love her. And there we were talking about this earlier, and I went back on her Instagram page just to make sure what post it was, and it was Laura in 2016
Right.
at the archery range.
Ah, I
And
see.
I was like, oh, what's she doing? What's that about? And so I remember going on her profile, and I think it was like a group picture or something, and they were like dressed up as Vox Machina.
Am I thinking of, it's that very classic image, if any of you watch Critical Role, you know that like old campaign one,
Yeah.
all of them in their cosplays, and like they do the intro where it's just in a woods, probably near LA.
Probably.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, what the fuck? That looks cool. What's that? And I found Critical Role. And yeah, that's it, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
Laura Bailey.
Laura Bailey, the queen that she is. Honestly, this is the thing though. Like, this is what I mean when I say how finding D&D has changed so much, because 10 years ago you did not. Actually, very recently it's been the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah,
for Critical Role.
Yeah.
So, and I'm assuming that means 10-year anniversary since they first started streaming with like Geek and Sundry.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah.
So like, back in those early days where like, they just kind of jumped in the middle of, I think, of a campaign. They already had all this stuff going on.
It was a home campaign.
Yeah.
That they decided to start live streaming.
Yeah. So, 10 years ago from now, Critical Role had just started streaming with probably minimal viewers. It got popular very fast, but even still, like, just not the coverage that you find it has now.
Yeah.
But at that time, yes, there was platforms and YouTube and Twitch that, covered D&D, talked about it, and played it live. But it's no stretch to say that Critical Role has become the, like, charging general in an army of, like, leading this renaissance of D&D that's happened these last 10 years. Shows that have, I think half or more than half than of the shows that exist now happened because of Critical Role. Yeah. Dimension 20 only exists. The only reason like the dropout / college humor teams ever said that Brennan Lee Mulligan could do Dimension 20 is because of how popular Critical Role is. There's no way you can convince me otherwise, unless with a statement from him himself. But yeah, Critical Role has pioneered kind of popularity for D&D and bringing it to the forefront.
Which I think is why some people have a sort of disdain for it.
Yes.
Like, I'm sure people hear me say I found it through Critical Role and have like a bad taste in their mouth.
Yeah.
Because it is popular and people wanna shit on that.
Yeah, that happens a lot, especially when it's I feel like when it comes to a lot of toxic gatekeepy D&D players, the only perfect answer you could give them for like, oh, how I found D&D is, I walked into a D&D exclusive gaming shop, saw the player's handbook, and was like, that's my new favorite game. Or, you know, I materialized knowing everything, and I've never got a D&D rule wrong.
Or be like my dad and watch that one animated show when he was a kid.
Yeah, that, oh my god, the 80s animated show. Because whenever I bring up what Dungeons and Dragons is, and this is no shame to people over the age of like 40 that play Dungeons and Dragons, it genuinely isn't, because most amazing D&D players are over 40, including the Critical Role cast, some of them.
Yeah.
But there's definitely the caliber of person over 40 who doesn't play D&D, and their only frame of reference of what D&D is Chris Pine in the recent movie and the animated TV series.
Yeah.
That will be it.
Yeah.
But coming with this renaissance of Critical Role, more than ever, people know what D&D is because of streaming, because of Twitch, and because of YouTube. Whereas 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it would have been obscure YouTubers. I mean, I remember my very first, we'll get to this more, but like my very first time ever seeing D&D was the Yogscast on YouTube.
Really?
I know. Well, I'll talk about it in a second, but yeah, like these are more obscure places, and a lot of the time, when I've heard of people who play D&D much younger, even people in my own age group that played D&D from when they were like before they were 10, before Critical Role existed, before Dimension 20 existed, they found out from like things like their parents.
Yeah.
Parents is a huge one. Like, oh, my mum or dad or my parent or my guardian is played D&D when they were a kid, and I found their old book or whatever, or they still play it with their mates every now and then, and they got me into it. But yeah, like more often than not nowadays, people are going to find D&D because of Critical Role or Dimension 20. Or whatever. I mean, actually, I think nowadays, I bet more people are likely to find D&D because of Legend of Vox Machina.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, your dad, for example, who watched the animated series when he was a kid, probably the only other thing he will know D&D from now is Stranger Things. Because, that's a big one.
Started on that.
That's a big one.
I remember, when was it? It was when I first started dating you. And I was like, oh, he's a DM. And he was like, what's that? And I was like, oh, like blah, 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 whatever. And he was like, oh, like in Stranger Things with like Vecna. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But we'll go with that.
Close enough. But this is the thing, D&D has changed, I think, I don't think D&D is necessarily like that different, but like these early 80s, 90s versions of D&D, there were plenty of home games that involved tons of vivid roleplay. But for the most part, people played D&D because it was, you had your little tokens, you went in your little tiles, and you killed a monster, and you got your little chest of loot. And that was kind of the game cycle. It's very like, I think the board game is Heroes Quest, which is like D&D without the roleplay.
Oh, yeah.
I've played it once, was a good time, but it kind of, it was just more board gamey.
Yeah.
Which I think was like half of what D&D was, whereas like nowadays when you look at a lot of modern games of D&D, combat is like a fifth of the whole spectrum.
My God,
you're not a combat fan.
hater.
Oh, I cannot wait to do an episode on combat where I can sit and talk about all the many facets of combat that I adore and love, and you can sit and go, nah,
I love being
my witch bolt didn't hit.
Right, we're not getting into that. I love being a stereotype for women in nerd spaces.
Oof.
It's great. I love it.
Oh yeah, you don't like the fighty bit.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I think I like it. I think I like it because I'm a DM.
Yeah.
I think a big part of it is that.
Well, I don't dislike it. I would just like my dice to hit.
Be nice to you,
Yeah.
it would be good. It's, you have to borrow my dice usually at the table so that you can get a lucky roll.
Yep.
It's pretty unfortunate, I must say.
Yep.
But anyway, speaking of rolling dice for the first time, I'll go a little bit into like how I found D&D myself.
Yep.
So I was 13 13, 14, so similar age to you, maybe a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of in the middle of like secondary school or high school if you're not from West Scotland, I guess. Because most people in other parts of Scotland call it high school, which still freaks me out.
I call it high school.
It's secondary school.
No, it's high school.
For everyone who's not from Scotland, instead of, let's go for the Americans, for example, instead of elementary, middle, and high school, you get primary school,
Yeah.
which is from like age 5 to 12,
But
5 to 11.
I started primary when I was 4.
4 to 11-ish, somewhere in there. You do about 7 years in it. And it's called primary 1, primary 2,
Yeah.
primary 3. And then you go to secondary school.
High school.
No, you go to second, because primary, secondary.
Well,
it makes sense.
I'm not saying it's whatever. High school.
Sure. But
You Kelly meh.
Kelly stands for Kilmarnock. Just to reference that, because
I
no one
can't-
on earth knows what
I
Kelly
can't say
is.
my usual bits anymore. People aren't going to get it.
This is the issue with being a Scottish D&D podcast, is we have slang that not even parts of Scotland 40 minutes away will
Yeah.
understand.
I can't. Well, can I say G-Town?
G-Town means Glasgow, for a start. Do you think someone in England's going to know what G-Town
I
is?
don't know.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
But I was in the middle of high school, and maybe about 14, maybe going on 15.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at the time a big fan of the Oxcast. It was cringe, but I loved it. And you know what? I think that the people who are in the Oxcast right now and stuff, and they're still working and all that, they're doing great. I check in every now and then as like an adult who used to watch them when I was younger, and watch a few videos. Still a bit of a giggle, but I was watching, I think it was Yogg's Quest or something, their little D&D show that they did, and I do not know if they actually had a rule set. I don't think they did. I think they just made up their own rules, because why would they use the complicated 5e rules for like an 8-episode silly little thing where they just want to do bits? And that's so valid. So when I started playing D&D, which was very soon after that, because I'd found out that some of my friends knew what D&D was, and those friends knew D&D far better than me. But we would like sit at a table around in the school lunch hall in front of everyone. Like everyone could see this. I mean, to be fair, it's not as if they were caring. No one was looking. It's Scotland. It's not high school bullies in like America. Well, there's still
I don't know
definitely
about
bullies.
that.
But we weren't getting our lunch trays whacked out of our hands every day.
No, you're just getting shanked instead.
You were getting shanked. I got shanked right in my D20. But
Oh,
that was an awful one. I hate that.
no, please don't do that again.
Cut that one.
Nope. I'm the editor. I say no.
Oh dear. But we'd sit around this little school lunch hall table, and we'd have those cheap like Amazon dice.
Oh god, yeah, like the multi-pack ones.
You'd get like 5 colours, and they were cheap plastic, and it costed you £15.
Yeah.
And I had like bright yellow, bright purple, bright red.
They always had like the little faint glitter swirls in them.
Oh, see, no, mine were like block, polyhedral, like block
mine's
plastic.
were like cool. I got like cool like
They were
glitter
like-
swirly ones.
They were so block plastic, they looked like Lego, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
you could have picked better.
I certainly could have.
That's
but
on you, really, if you think about it.
honestly, I am a problematic player, really.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I mean, I should fix myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd sit around and play D&D, and it did not really have rules. Like, when I tell you I started playing D&D at 14, I should clarify, I started playing D&D 5e, a D&D game with a rule set, when I was 18.
Yeah.
So I had about 3 to 4 years of like going around to a friend's house and playing quote unquote D&D, but it would just be nonsense. When I tell you there was a time where I sat at a school desk and I felt triumphant as a D&D player because my character had obtained the Green Goblin armor and glider from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. That was a loot item I got. Did it have stats? No, I just did whatever the fuck I wanted. That was how unhinged our game got.
Who was the DM?
It was a friend of mine named Ewan. Yeah, Green Goblin armor's a choice when it comes to D&D. Yeah.
I don't think I done anything like that.
No. I've never done something like that since. Honestly, D&D has consistently disappointed me since that day. But yeah, that was my first experience playing a form of D&D. Like a very cultivated is definitely the wrong word. Very primal crap version of D&D where like you had a character sheet that had like 6 stats on it and that was it. No skills.
Oh god.
I don't know what a weapon did. Like it was just like you had strength, moving, constitution, intelligence, cleverness, same skill, but we just thought we'd put 2 on the different ones. And then speech probably. I bet you at one point we probably used like a Fallout sheet with like the special stats on it. Something like that. It was really thingy. This is no discredit to who was my DM at the time. You know who you are if you are listening. But you put so much effort into it and you genuinely you printed out sheets for us and you were so amazing and kind. And even when we'd come together and play in my 20s every now and then, still did the same amount of raw effort, drawing out battle maps and everything. Excellent DM.
Yeah.
I was just a petulant little player who didn't understand the game yet.
Yeah, you're the problem.
I am the problem player.
Yeah.
This is
It's
what we're
not
gonna.
you, it's me.
This is what we're gonna find out across all of these episodes. Is that it's actually, in actual fact, every problem player that's ever existed is me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, and I'm like the most amazing one ever.
Yes, you're perfect.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
You are goddess. Yeah.
Don't call me that.
No.
No.
Is that not gonna go in the pod?
No, it will, but.
Horrific.
You're welcome.
Oh my god. I'm on the airwaves forever. I shall be an absolute simp.
Moving on.
Moving firmly on. So, that's how you found D&D.
Yep.
Critical Role.
Critical Role.
Classic. Or more specifically, Laura fucking Bailey.
Laura fucking Bailey.
Who is definitely top 5 players of all time in terms of like the streaming sphere. Gotta be.
Yeah.
Your first time playing. How did you play it for the first time?
Oh, it was in Norway.
Oh, right, okay.
So I was in Norway for a bit because my at the time partner stayed there. In Bergen, fancy.
Oofed.
And we had a friend who was pretty new to D&D. I think he was the same. Like he got into it with like Critical Role and stuff.
Yeah.
He got so into Critical Role, like binge watched campaign 2 in like a very scary amount of time.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
As someone who, I'll be very clear, I definitely have ADHD. Like, there's no doubt about that. I cannot do it. I can barely do a Dimension 20 season.
Keep in mind, this was a man with a very demanding job. I don't know how he done it. Anyway.
Slacking off his job, probably.
And it was during, was it summer? Must have been summer. Or like a really sunny day. And we're all at a park with a bunch of our friends. And he was like working on his campaign. And we were trying to get another girl who like had no idea what we were talking about into it. And she was like looking on D&D Beyond, all the different races and stuff. And I was trying to talk to her about it. And so he's getting his campaign together. And then he shoots a message saying like, hey, I'm doing a one-shot. You should come over. So we're like, okay. So I'm like, oh, I need to make a character for this one-shot. So I think I still have the notes on my phone where I like wrote down the fastest character I've ever made.
Yeah.
Called Thera. My girl. I love her so much. She, at the time, she's been reworked. At the time, she was a half-elf Circle of the Moon druid.
Yes.
I think I've still got like the art that I sent to him on Instagram, and I'm like, here's my character.
Incredible.
Because he said he would give the character with like the best backstory or something, like an item. Some sort of
hell
item.
yeah.
So,
Incentive.
but I only wrote down like 2 sentences for my backstory, so I thought if I made up with it in the character art that I would get something.
Get them Pinterest boards out.
I did get something.
Did you?
I did get something.
You did.
Not an item. My ex got the item.
Oh,
Loser.
Cringe.
Anyway.
Disgusting.
So I made Fira, and we go over to no, it wasn't his apartment we went to. I have no idea whose apartment we were in. We were in someone's apartment. And
We're at someone's basement.
or someone's basement.
Yeah.
So someone's apartment in Norway. It was a totally little, like, studio place, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We'd got our cider and stuff. We're sitting down on, like, couches and a table that's just too small.
Gotcha.
But he's printed out, like, a battle map and everything.
Oh, hell yeah.
I had brought my my little Imogen figure.
Yes, I've seen this figure as well.
Yeah. So it was like 2021 when they had just released it, and I snagged it up.
Oofed.
So I'd brought my little Imogen figure that represented Fira. This was the first time playing with, like, a group.
Mm-hmm.
I'd played it, like, with me and, like, my ex as well.
Yeah.
Like, just the two of us. This was the first time in a group. So I was 18 at this 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't know the rules.
Yes.
You think I would, because I'd had the player's handbook
Uh-huh.
for many a years.
Yeah.
Didn't know any rules. I was like, you know what? I've got I think it was like we'd printed out character sheets that were made for people with, like, dyslexia.
Right.
So they were like, it was like 4 different pages, and, like, everything was all big bold letters, and
Well, fair enough.
so I had that. I coloured it in. I painted it.
Oofed.
I painted it pink and blue. And I done
Cute.
little stars and stuff all over it.
Oh,
I think I still have it, actually. I need to find it.
need to find it.
And I had rolled extremely good. These stats. See, I am so glad I had no witness for
Mhm.
rolling these stats. Oh my god, the rolls were insanely good. Did I give myself any debuffs? No. No, I did not.
Instant, like, it's the first thing everyone does when they play D&D for the very first time, unless you're massively curated by someone who, like, tells you otherwise.
Mhm.
It's always the first thing you do is like, oh my god, yippee, I've rolled, like, super high on everything. I've got no weaknesses. This makes the best character ever. But we all learn, like, eventually playing the character with several weaknesses. That shit. Oh, so
Yeah.
much fun.
But she was my little perfect angel. Side note, when I was making her, do you know Caleb in C2?
Yes.
He has a thing where he has to make, like, whiz saves.
Yes.
I was like, oh, what can I add in for a little spice? So I wrote down that because of her backstory, which I'm not going to mention right now, but if anyone were to make, like, romantic advances towards her, she would have to make a whiz save. So that's, like, noted in the character sheet. I'd sent, like, everything over to the DM beforehand, but we get there and just a little one shot, and he's set in the scene. We're in a little tavern, but oh no, things are attacking. We need to, like,
The classic.
we need to barricade the walls. But oh my god,
Ooh.
this tavern was actually like a old secret military base or something. So they've got, like, cannons.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So
It's
we
like
get in.
the Seacaster Manor, like a big ship house.
So this is like 10 minutes into it starting. We get in, and there is another player who I'd never met before. I think he was visiting from, like, France or something. Never met this guy before, but I think he was new to D&D, like the DM was. So he had made a very quick character in D&D Beyond, and you know how you get to pick, like, your items.
Yeah.
that you get? He had picked a love letter.
Ah.
And so we're sitting down, and things are just going crazy. Everything's going wild.
Yeah.
His character goes up to Fira and hands her a letter.
Oofed.
And he is actually quite cute. He, like, wrote on, like, a bit of napkin saying, like, I heart you. Just a quick, like, to give to, like, me physically.
Oh, physical prop.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay, what's this? Go away, open it. And I'm like, DM. And I show him my sheet. I'm like, I gotta wake up with safe. And then he's sitting looking at it, and he was like, I mean, what the hell, sure, go on, make a whiz save. Fails.
Of course.
Fira starts freaking out.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to do their bit, trying to stop all these little, I don't know what was trying to break in. I can't remember. Try to stop them from breaking in. Meanwhile, Fira's in the corner, actually tweaking, shaking back and forth. She finally snaps out of it anyway. Long story short, she was the biggest threat apparently
Right.
because she had cast a moonbeam right on the opening of a tunnel that they were tunneling into, and so they were constantly just getting bashed and bashed and bashed.
Yes. A little chokehold.
And so they targeted her. But little did Fira know that she had been blessed by another Circle of the Moon druid
Right.
who had given her a little thing in her forehead.
A little Simba moment.
And so she turned into a tree.
As you do.
She turned into a tree. I remember being like, DM, purely for my own pleasure, there was like a little altar
Uh-huh.
in an area, and I was like, my movement cannot get me there, but it's like 5 feet away.
Yeah.
Can I somehow say, if I use Mage Hand on myself, I can boost myself up onto the altar? And he was like, what the hell, sure. Okay. So on this altar, she turns into a tree and just starts smacking them with vines and planting seeds that give health.
Hell yeah.
So we win. I don't know if she ever transformed back out of the tree. We never mentioned that. So she might still be a tree. Oh, also, this one shot turned into like a 2-3 shot.
Yeah, that happens.
We had to go back. But I was so mad because I remember after it, well, he had sent me like all the stats for the tree and like my messages. And at the bottom it said, if shit gets real, say this thing. I can't remember what it was.
Right, okay.
But he told me to say a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I never said it because I didn't need to. And then at the end, he was like, yeah, if you had said that, you would have turned into a dragon. I was like,
Well,
God damn it.
horrific. Like,
You tell me that now?
the DM's best tool is to tell someone retroactively, oh, by the way, if you'd done this, shit would have got real.
Oh, I was mad.
I do that too much.
I was so mad.
I
But, do you know what? We won.
It sounds like a pretty fun 1, 2, 3 shot. Yeah, jeez. I mean, I've got so many thoughts in my brain. The first thing I thought was like, you were talking about like your friend who was like frantically scrolling through D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
And it just made me think like, God, how D&D Beyond sometimes a problematic site. Should we not say that?
No.
No. We might want sponsors.
Yeah.
Okay. Take that back.
We love you, D&D Beyond.
We love you, D&D Beyond. D&D Beyond it's really useful.
Mm-hmm.
It is. By the way, first ever episode, we are not sponsored.
No. Oh, no, I only use D&D Beyond though.
Yeah, a lot of players do.
Yeah.
And any other sites as well, like Roll20, that's used a lot. And then tons of like kind of shiftier sites people can make use of.
Yeah.
Especially with other TTRPGs and stuff. Pathfinder is really hard to find something to like put a sheet on online.
I think we found like 1 or 2 vampire ones.
Yes, yeah, vampire. But D&D Beyond is scary. For a first-time player, I remember how I felt. Yeah, I mean, I'm literally like, I'll be talking about that in a sec. Like, D&D Beyond is intimidating. So much information on there, and you don't know what's useful.
No, that's the thing. Like, I even mentioned it to you like a week ago or something. That even some spells.
Yeah.
I'm too scared to use because I read it and I'm like, that's too much. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, they're even like in. After years of playing D&D, I still look at certain spells and my brain goes, I think I understand this spell. I think I know what this does. Do I really know? Probably not.
I don't even understand basics stuff like not casting 2 spells and blah blah blah.
Oh, like not casting a spell with your action and then not being able to cast another one with your bonus action, that kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, fuck, I remember playing a character, like a long-time character that I played, like a bard, and casting Polymorph for the very first time. It was my first time ever casting a 4th level spell in a D&D game, and I was so excited. And I was like, I'm going to cast Polymorph, and I'm going to turn myself into a giant ape and go ape shit. Pun fucking intended. But I cast it on myself. I was feeling like the shit. I was like, oh my god. The DM's put like a little token on Roll20 for me that's made me into a massive ape. I'm so excited. I told him in advance, I want to be an ape. It's happening. Get a token ready. And I charge like a beast towards the first monster I can find. I hit it once. I'm happy. I'm like, can't wait for next round where I can hit it a few more times. I get one hit on me, fail my con save.
Yep.
Spell is dropped.
Yep.
I sat in the call and had to listen to eight more turns, and that whole time I was sitting stewing because I was like, I'm such an idiot. I'm such a moron. Why did I forget that I need to have concentration?
Oh, I forget it all the time. Like, there's so
Yeah.
many times where I'll do something, you're like, oh, so you've got concentration on that now. I'm like, oh, okay. Yep, you sure thing, bucko.
Even as a DM, I forget about it with monsters and evil wizards and all this. Like when I'm playing spellcaster bosses during kind of major sessions, I'll forget what I've got concentration on because I'm too busy manning miniature monsters as well, and I'm manning what you guys are doing your turns and making sure nothing mental's happening or whatever, and tracking damage and all that. Like, as someone as ADHD as me, it's tough to keep your brain on a certain level of focus.
Yeah.
You know? That's why I have, like, not necessarily always sticky notes, but even, like, on my laptop screen when I'm sitting with behind my DM screen, I will have, like, big caps letters saying, like, remember to use legendary actions. Remember you have legendary resistances. You know, all of that stuff. Keep reminding myself.
Just forget it.
I'll just forget I don't have...
Just forget about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Because, sometimes I'll get to the end of a round and I'm like, oh, there's a legendary action I've still not used.
Nah. No, there isn't. Do you know what? It cancels out. You're not doing that. Cancels out my dice hating me.
I see.
If you really think about it.
Oh, this is how video games are balanced,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah. You just debuff everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just nerf everything. That's how Blizzard do it.
Let's not get into that.
Let's not get too far into the state of Overwatch as of now.
Well, I want Doki Watch. So.
Me shame.
Hey.
Kidding. That's not
Moving on.
That's not making it in.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, D&D Beyond is a bit spooky at times.
I forgot we were talking about that.
Just casually as you do. But yeah, so like my first experience playing was and I mean playing. I'll be very clear about that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about playing with a rule set that's written in a published book.
Yeah.
Yeah. COVID had hit. It's 2020.
Oh, yeah.
I had left my very first university course because I tried to be an actor. Look at me now.
Get a load of this loser.
Get a load of this loser. But I'd done musical theatre in my like high school years. I'd engaged in improv. I'd acted in like short films and student films. I'd done a lot of stuff that was really exciting and really fun. And I love performing. And I always have. I love getting creative. And D&D at the time was like a forgotten thought. It had been like over a year since I'd played it because I'd been a while since I left school and stuff. So like I just hadn't had it on the radar in my head. And I had a friend reach out because I was definitely like top 3, top 4 of the nerdiest twats in my little friend group. Like there was like a dozen or so of us, but there were a few of us that were definitely a touch more dorks than the rest. And sadly I didn't get the mix of being like the very clever dorks. I was just the dork. But my friend reaches out, says, hey, the people I play with usually in person, I can't play with them, and they can't do online. and we're all in our houses. And you know, at the time I was working. I think I just got a job as a receptionist,
Oh,
and I'd
oh.
worked for like a month
Okay.
before COVID hit.
Yeah.
So I'd got a brand new job, but I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
The hotel had closed. So I instead was bored as hell in home. Lucky enough to have like a home that like I didn't need to worry about paying bills, stress it in like a major stressy way. So that was really really good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was sitting at home and I was playing video games and watching films and
Nerd.
being a total nerd and wasting my time being a gamer.
Oh.
Yeah, disgusting.
Yeah.
But my friend reached out and I said, yeah, fuck it. Let's do this. So I asked him, okay, do I need to know anything? And he was like, yeah, there's these rules. And I'm like, there's rules?
Here's this big ass thick player's handbook,
This
by the way.
thick player's handbook.
Ew.
Considering the size of other handbooks, as I've recently purchased the like core rulebook for Vampire the Masquerade,
Yeah.
and that thing is huge.
Yeah.
It is weighty. I had to carry that in my bag. My shoulder hurted after.
Oh, did it?
Oh, my wee shoulder hurted.
Baby.
I was carrying other things. But the player's handbook at the time was a bit much. I was like, oh god, okay. There's a lot of rules
It's
here.
very overwhelming.
Yeah, because this is the thing. Like, before you'd ever played a TTRPG, your only frame of reference is like board games.
Yeah.
And board games have a pamphlet that's got 300 words
I
on
get
it.
stressed out playing board games.
But like, I mean, yeah. But the rules aren't complex or anything. You can learn Monopoly in an afternoon.
Yeah.
And I think you could probably learn D&D in an afternoon, but it's
Yeah.
about making it stick and about knowing what's important. Because with the handbook, it's such a wealth of information about classes and spells and items and races, or now species in 2024, backgrounds, feats, all that.
Yeah.
But like, I had no idea what any of it meant. So my friend just said, go on D&D Beyond online and go on the character creator, on the pre-made builder, and just play with it. Have some fun. See what you like. And so I had my very first experience of like going into that builder, making a player character or whatever, and being like, I have no idea what their name is. I got hung up on the name part and I didn't realise I could go back and change it later.
Oh god.
But I went on it and I'd gone to the classes section and I was like, right, okay, let's have a look here. And I see, Paladin, and I love a knight. For Honor players back in the day, I was always on the knight side, always. But I look at this list of characters and I see wizard and I see rogue and barbarian, these really cool and interesting classes. And I'm a wee twat, so obviously Bard called to me.
Such a theater kid.
I'm such a theatre kid.
Goddamn.
Theatre.
Ew.
But, I mean, at the time, actually, I think I just had a production of Little Shop of Horrors in like a youth theatre or whatever be cancelled.
Yeah.
Because I was going to be Seymour.
Yeah.
Oh, what a shame. Would have been fun. Oh well. But I look at Bart and I'm like, this looks fun. I can play around with it, have a bit of a laugh, be a bit of a show off, be a twat. And
As
so,
usual.
as per fucking usual. So I made a character called Rafendil Halahais.
Oh my lord.
I know. And he was a half-elf bard.
Oh.
And yeah, I think I made his look based on like, there's like a half-elf bard image on D&D Beyond of like a guy, like a young male with short brown hair and like a kind of red cape around his neck. And I
like
think
one of the icons.
one of the icons, yeah. So I think I just based his look around that because I was like, that makes it easy. And we played like 4 sessions online, I think.
Oh.
I don't remember a lot of what happened. I remember we were in a sewer at one point where there was like a manhole cover or a grate above us that we had to climb. And it took about 20 minutes before we realised someone had the spell Spider Climb, which solved everything. We were doing like trapeze, like putting out everyone on each other's shoulders and all that,
God.
like absolute nightmare. But that was my very, very first time playing D&D. but it's not. I don't remember a lot of it. I
Yeah.
really don't. I remember there being a rogue in my party that was a nightmare.
Oh.
I mean, my very first experience of D&D, getting that like murder hobo, like he'll go to a shop and he will not leave until he can haggle down to the last penny for something.
You know,
Like,
I don't think I've had that.
you've never had a murder hobo?
No.
Woofed.
I know.
It's an experience.
Got
I'll
very
tell you
lucky.
that.
Well,
I mean, we'll get into like other episodes about like our own D&D horror stories where we can really talk about it.
I don't know if I have any.
Oh, see, I've got a couple. I definitely do.
Yeah.
I've just played with very varied groups. But
I've played with 3.
3, and I'm your third.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then after that, I hadn't played it for like a couple months, but then restrictions started getting a little bit less for COVID in the UK. Things were getting a bit easier, and I remember the same friend reached out and was like, "Listen, I'm getting together a few of your mates," and these were more familiar friends of mine. There was a few very close friends of mine in the first group. But there was also some people I didn't know that well. But in the second group, there was a more familiar group. I was like, "Awesome, I'm in." I will say, by the way, between this game and the COVID game, I had attempted to DM.
Oh.
I gave it a go.
How'd that go?
Badly.
Okay.
2 sessions.
Right.
3.
What
no.
did you do?
No. I did
No?
more than that.
Oh.
I think I did. It got maybe 3 sessions deep. I had a lot of ideas. A lot of them were bad. I focused more on making like maps and stuff than thinking about what the story could be or about what the world was. But I had my first goes at like making a map, for example. Which as a DM now, I'm so into map making. Like,
I know. Yep.
map making is my bread and butter. I love a map.
Oh, trust me. I know.
I just spent a week building a big map for my current campaign, which I cannot talk about. You need to not give anything away, because you've looked over my shoulder and had like 1 or 2 little hints by accident.
Oh, you weren't exactly being subtle.
Well, I'm wanting them to think I'm being subtle.
Okay, you're being very subtle.
I'd spent, last week trying to build like a big map that took like 7 days.
Yeah.
And when I say 7 days, like an hour or so here, there, and there. So maybe like 7 hours of work.
I don't know.
Felt longer.
It was longer than that.
Okay, well, I spent a fair whack of time on
Yeah.
maps. But I love maps. I do. And so I'd made my first maps doing this. And I started to realize, like, oh, damn. Like, I really like making maps.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful to that for like my first experiences finding what I like in D&D, but also finding out what my weaknesses were. Like the combats were crap, puzzles were shit. They weren't like described properly or
Your
anything.
combats are still crap.
Excuse me.
You downed me on my first one.
Let's be very clear that the quality of my combats are not measured by how poorly you do in them.
Whoa!
Woofed.
Right. First combat with you, right? First combat.
Yeah.
Don't even get to do anything. Just waddle on in.
Yeah, you were just there.
Down.
Downed.
Down immediately.
You and 2 others, I think. Or 1 other.
One other.
Yeah. It was, to be very clear, an ice dragon.
To be very clear, squishy.
Yeah, you're a sorceress.
38 hit points.
Yeah, and the breath weapon took you down in one
Yep.
go. But I also crafted your custom subclass with an ability similar to is it the Orcish resistance, where like you come right back up after 0. But yeah, so I'd had a wee go at attempting DMing online, didn't work out. Then my friends started that group, the proper group of in-person play, and I made my like first thought out character, I want to say, a character with a backstory, because I don't think Rafendel had one. I really don't think he did.
The very first one I ever made didn't have one.
Yeah. I think more often your first character isn't necessarily always about the backstory, but just like what they are.
Yeah.
But my second like character was a Warforged,
Oh yeah.
which is probably still my favorite race ever in D&D. My favorite species. Love Warforged. But I made a Warforged, and he was a pirate. And he was a champion fighter. And I'll be very clear, I am aware most people out there are absolutely avid that Battlemaster is better in every way. I'm not saying I disagree. I'm saying as someone who was new to D&D, champion looked a whole lot easier for me.
I'm staying out of that one.
But I made a champion fighter, Warforged, and he was a pirate, and I named him RM8E, because if you put his name together, it's R-matey.
It's so lame.
It's so good. It's the best D&D name I've ever made. I've not made an NPC since that tops that.
You gotta copyright it.
No, I can't. Do you want to know the most horrific thing in the world?
What?
RMAT exists elsewhere.
Did you steal it?
No, I didn't. I promise you that RMAT shows up as a little robot enemy, like a sub-boss enemy, next to a big boss in Destiny 2.
Oh, okay.
I found this 2 years after, 3 years maybe, after playing this character. And I was online with like 2 friends doing like a little raid, or I don't know, not raid, but like a little mission or whatever. We have to do this, and you have to put bombs in walls and all that crap. Oh, it might have been I think it was a dungeon actually. It was a dungeon in Destiny 2.
Okay.
And it was this big final boss where you have to put these bombs in. And there's this main boss, and there's this little drone that's kicking about the place. And I looked at it, and my friend pointed out, that's like thingy, and then I noticed it as well. And I was like, that's RMAT. They've stolen my name.
They stole it.
Yes.
Clearly.
Because that dungeon, I think, came out after I'd like formed the character.
Yeah, I felt that way when I was making Clary, my character, because I was trying to think of like a really poncy, like French name, and I was like, who? Claire. Clary.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's such a good name. And then like a month later, I was like, oh, I wonder, is that like actually a name? Have I made a name? And I googled it, and it was a river in France.
Incredible.
I was like, that damn river stole my name.
I mean, the story behind Fira's name is also
Oh,
excellent.
I didn't even mention that.
Yeah.
So, when you're learning a language, you typically don't learn it the way that a child would learn to speak. Because when you're teaching a child how to speak, it's like the alphabet, 1, 2, 3, and you're doing it like that.
Yeah.
When you're an adult and you're learning a language like Norwegian, you're learning phrases, you're saying like, hello, my name is, blah, blah, blah.
Where's the toilet?
Exactly.
How do I order something?
So
yeah.
I knew like a set amount of Norwegian to get me by.
Yeah.
And I named Fira after my first ever character I made called Fia, which is a Irish name. And I was like, how can I change that name? Because I like the name Fia, but I want something else. And I was like, Fira. So whatever. Go to Norway. We're in our one shot that I mentioned before, and the DM, he's like going over all of our PCs and everything.
Yeah.
And he gets to me and he's like, so 4.
Oh no.
And I'm like, huh? What do you mean? And he was like, 4. Your character's called 4. And I was like, no, she's not. Her name's Fira. And he was like, yeah, that's 4 in Norwegian. And I remember being so disgusted, and I looked at my ex, or like my at the time boyfriend, and I was like, you never told me that. You're Norwegian. I told you her name. You never told me that Fira meant 4. And he was like, well, I didn't put the 2 together. I'm like, what do you mean?
You speak that language.
What? So, Fira means 4.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, it happens. It does. I mean, it's becoming increasingly harder to be original in D&D. I mean,
Yep.
you can't come up with a concept anymore without it being related to an existing PC that's like that's famous. Think of like anyone that ever wants to play the classic trope of an elf with a bow is going to be compared to Vexalia, or the barbarian Goliath, Grog.
I will give them it though. My Fia was a Vex clone.
Oh yes, she was.
Well, it's like a Vex and Keyleth baby. She had
Alright.
ginger hair,
An absolute dream.
and she was like very as close to druid as a ranger can get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
yeah.
but that happens. It's just easy to fall into these traps. I mean, most first-time players will fall into the kind of those classic tropes because they're so easy to get into. Dwarf fighter, or dwarf barbarian. Elf archer is a big one. An old man wizard with a big pointy hat. Like a ranger who's got like a scruffy beard, like Aragorn. These are these tropes that like stand the test of time. And you know what? They never stop being fun.
I feel like even things that aren't tropes are always going to get compared as well. Like you've done it with Fira,
Yeah.
with like her backstory. You're like, oh, that's like that so and so character from that really popular show.
Yes, yeah.
It's like, I
I didn't mean that, but yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
It happens. It absolutely happens. But yeah, like my first experiences of D&D had me play a half-elf bard. That's pretty bog standard. Actually, following my awesome, amazing, perfectly named pirate Warforged, I made a gnome artificer. What is more D&D than a gnome artificer? Nothing. It's just it's a trope. It's a cliche. But I did it. And his name was Gio Babio.
Oh my god.
It was a dreadful character.
Oh my good lord. I am so happy that I am not playing with you as a player.
What? How dare you?
I could not look you in the eyes.
And call me Gio Babio.
No.
Well, I'm a very different D&D player than I was 4 or 5 years ago.
Thank the Lord.
I mean,
Kidding. That was a joke.
I made Gio, and then session 1 playing as him, hated him. And I instantly started playing him as like this reckless character who like didn't care about his life because I genuinely wanted him to die.
Oh god, okay.
I just was done with him. I was like, this is such a dreadful concept. People have laughed at his name already. I've done no thought into his character
Joke's
at all.
over, pack it up.
Joke's over. Let's Bertrand Bell this guy.
I mean, that's like when we were talking about my backup character for the current one. They're a silly, goofy thing, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give details. And I spoke to you, and I was like, no, I'm not playing her for long. I'm not playing this one for like 20 sessions.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
So we've talked about how we found D&D, our very first times experiencing it and playing it, even like our first PCs. So I think we should round into some horror stories.
Ooh.
Because D&D is full of them. It just is. There are players that are problematic. There are DMs that don't know how to run their games properly. There is miscommunication. There are like relationship issues. There are so many things in D&D that like complicate things and can make things difficult for players. And I think part of like addressing horror stories like the ones I'm about to go through helps everyone formulate a kind of more well-rounded head when it comes to future games. What to look out for, what to be aware of, and how to treat your fellow players.
Yeah.
Because I think in the people get lost in their brain when they think about like this kind of fantasized version of D&D, like Critical Role, for example, which like a big reason why like some people I know who have strong opinions about Critical Role is because it's become so far from the representation of a home game.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. Critical Role is incredible because it's the most well produced and like big scale mass-funded D&D project there is. And that's what it should be known for. But I think a lot of people out there are seeking home games and expecting that of Critical Role, which just kind of leads to a lot of mismatch between like what people want and what people get. But yeah, when it comes to playing D&D, a lot of people don't know what to look out for. A lot of people do and like are like very ignorant towards it and kind of on purpose. A lot of people out there just seek issues, which can be a kind of big thing. But yeah, I think we'll fire in. I'm gonna read you out a horror story.
Yeah, I've not heard these.
Yes, very clear. I proofread these and check that they're interesting and there's something to talk about. But you don't read them. You have no idea what I'm going to talk about.
No.
So we get a raw, fresh reaction from you, and I have some kind of like built-up thoughts about them.
Yep.
So, all of these I've gathered from Reddit, because of course I have.
What subreddit?
D&D horror stories.
Okay, of course.
Yeah, the classic one.
Yep.
I think last time I checked, I had like 47,000 members.
Yeah.
So it's like I think it's the biggest one right now, apart from maybe like a subthread on D&D or /D&D itself.
Yeah.
But I might look if people want, I can like look specifically at like module subreddits and stuff, because sometimes like Curse of Strahd, for example, might have some really interesting horror stories on its own threads.
Yeah.
But anyway, there is no trigger warnings for this one apart from like death and unaliving. So it's a very, very short one. We're just going to start quick and easy with this, with the very first one. So the username is Brie_person, BRI for Brie, not Brie the cheese.
Brie.
And this is from a player's perspective. And the title is My Character Got Ultra Super Killed.
Oh.
Which, it's not just death, it's ultra super death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it reads, we were in a dungeon and found a room with 2 treasure chests. One of them gave a reward, and the other killed whoever opened it. It was a 50-50 chance which chest did what. My character opened a chest and suddenly puffed away. We were under the impression that the chest would just kill my character, but actually, she was erased from existence with no chance of reviving. This happened once to an NPC before, but it was a god that erased the NPC from existence. I didn't expect a random chest in a dungeon to do the same. So, there's 2 layers to this.
No one can see, but my mouth is
Agape.
wide open.
It's one of those things where, like, it sounds like nothing, but also something. Like, for me,
I would be devastated.
Yeah. I think we don't have the context as to what kind of game of D&D this is. Because it could be a classic dungeon crawl, like, oh no, my character's dead, I'll drop a new one. But also, this could be like a huge story spawning, like a sprawling story of like complex characters and narratives. We don't know. I'm gonna say, based on like the kind of quickness of it, that maybe it is just like a classic, just drop a new one. But
I think even still that's something that should be discussed beforehand.
yes, this is why I want to talk about this. So I think the 3 things you can talk about here is 1, what the fuck in terms of having 2 chests, one just kills you. Strange. I'm assuming it's like a puzzle, but it's not a puzzle because it's just a 50-50.
50-50.
So you're just like, roll a dice, or sorry, flip a coin, and you can either get something cool or die.
I mean,
what?
Surely it would be like a poison or something, or like an arrow comes out and pierces you.
And it makes me think of the Elden Ring chests where you open them and mist comes out, but instead of getting teleported, your character gets erased from existence. It's crazy. But I think, first thing is like, that's a really weird thing to just put in front of your players.
Very
like,
weird.
It's not as if it's like, the user is like sitting going like, we were in a room and it was the final stage in a huge, sprawling story about chance and all this and all that. It's just, we were in a dungeon, there was a chest, and, you open one, you get a cool thing, you open the other one, you die.
It's just very bizarre.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is crazy to put like an erasure from existence kind of thing in like a in a classic wee dungeon.
Yeah, even if it was like just a dungeon crawl,
Yeah.
why is that there?
Why is it like non-revivable and
Why is it there regardless of anything? Why put that there?
yeah.
I don't even know what to say to that. What?
Yeah. It's just straight. I mean, obviously we're coming at it without like much context.
Was there a follow up or anything?
No.
Damn.
Nothing.
I mean, how many times have I said to you, like, if my character dies, I will kill you?
Yeah, so this is the main thing I wanted to talk about. When people address D&D, there's two mindsets when it comes to characters. You either have a DM / like group of people that say, if you die, roll a new character. Or you have a group like my own, or like how I view D&D, which is, and this is my advice, and I'm coming from a position, I know I'm not an expert in Dungeons and Dragons, I know I'm not Matthew Mercer, so my word is not law, but my 2 cents in the issue, if you're a DM and you're starting a campaign that has characters that you know your players are going to care about and they're going to get invested in, and there's a story that's going to be interesting, sit every single one of them down, either separately or together, and say, hey, death happens in this game. You know, there are mechanics such as death saving throws, there are mechanics such as being disintegrated and all this that lead to character death. I need to ask you all, are you okay with your character's story being cut short? That is one of the most crucial questions you should ever ask. Because in your example, in my current campaign that I'm running right now, you're playing Fira, but a sorceress version of Fira, kind of retooled, refixed, and revamped.
Yeah.
And we have had a conversation where I said, hey, if Fira goes down in a combat and dies, and there's no chance of a revivify or anything like that, are you okay with Fira's story being cut short?
No.
Exactly. And so that answer helps me think, okay, if this ever happens, I need to have a backup ready. I need to have something in plan. Now, this doesn't mean that you as DMs have to like have a god intervene and like flick the enemy away and be like, oh, and you're alive now.
No.
No, but you can have a conversation about, okay, you know, it's a similar conversation with like TPKs, but we'll get into that another time. But hey, Fira's dead. She's just been breath weaponed to death. Again.
God damn it.
This could turn out in ways of, there could be like, what if there's something hidden about a character? Say you've got like this wizard who has this untamed magical power in them, and the moment you die, like Atom Eve style in Invincible, just like they ignite mental blocks and rematerialize, and then it adds a really cool character moment. Why the fuck did that just happen?
Yeah.
Or you can have, you know, like classic things like you have like retrieving a character from like an underworld or the hells or an abyss.
I mean, we talked about this a couple of days ago where you asked me, like, would you want it to be an instant thing of like the first focus is that Fira comes back. That's the first goal, we get her back.
Yeah.
Or would you want it to be drawn out and, you know, you can retire her for a little bit, but she will come back? And my answer was, it depends.
Yes.
On where we are in
this
the
is
story.
the thing. A lot of people tend to run their games in a classic way of like, okay, you know, we're doing arc 1 of this story, and arc 1 is somewhat focused towards X NPC or XPC. So my monk, right? And that's how a lot of people run the game. They tend to, you know, they'll bring backstory elements from that character in. So for individual arcs, you'll have maybe a time where they're focused on particular characters. And yeah, you need to also know, like, is that player okay with having their character taken away for a little bit and they can play a backup character for like a period of time because they're not necessarily focused on their character and they're okay with that and their character can come back later. Or if we're in the middle of Fira's arc and like it's like, oh, you're 2 major sessions away from like the big conclusion to Fira's story and Fira goes down and dies in combat, how unsatisfying would it be if I turned around and was like, well, it's done.
I think I would break up with you.
Rough.
I think I
but
might.
so understandable.
Yeah.
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 Because that would be horrific. It would be so frustrating because you'd have poured hundreds of hours of your life into caring about this thing for it to be ripped away from you.
Yeah.
And that's, in my opinion, really emotionally bad for someone.
Yeah. Because I think, well, I can only talk from my own experience, but a big thing with my characters is they're a part of me.
Yes.
I like to add in elements of me into that character. That could be in a way to like, sort of, not like what's the word? Not recover, but like work through things in your life
Yes.
and be able to contextualize emotions that you've felt and sort of use it as like a form of like therapy.
Literally, I think a lot of players do this nowadays. It's very, very popular. You take elements of you, experiences you've had maybe in a character's backstory, or personality traits, or dysfunctions, or anything about you, and you embody them.
Yeah.
I know people that like to play out like mental health conditions in characters. Some people might want to play like autistic characters because they have experience with autism, and so they want to kind of contextualize that in a different setting.
Yeah.
Or maybe like PTSD or other major things. Obviously, check for consent at the table if everyone's okay with this thing kind of happening. But a lot of people do it. I do it. As a current like DM, I only have like a vampire character that I'm playing actively. I don't have a D&D character I'm playing, but I have DMPCs. And yes, I am a DM that uses DMPCs, but I'm not someone who makes DMPCs the sole focus or anything like that. They're there to be a comfortable middle between like they're like Baldur's Gate 3 followers.
Yeah.
They're there to add their story, for their stories to play out, for them to add an extra layer of depth.
Yeah.
And also for like a tool for me to get a chance to be like to have other characters interact with you on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And for their thoughts and feelings to develop with time, and not just like, oh, the blacksmith we've seen 3 times, So when I make DM PCs, 2 things tend to come into my head when I'm making them. It's what kind of character do I want to have fun playing? Because a lot of the time as a DM, I sit and make stat blocks and characters all the fucking time. And sometimes I sit and go, oh, do you know what? That's a really cool concept for a character. Do I want to keep this for me as a player? Or do I think it's a cool concept, I probably won't get a chance to play it for a full campaign. I'll make it into a really fun DM PC that I can sit and play casually for a long time. So yeah, I have done so. I've got a character in my current campaign called Thorn, who is a half-orc barbarian paladin, and she is so awesome, and she's tatted up to the gills, and she's super strong. These are not the aspects of her that I attribute, although I am tatted.
Yeah, you're tatted.
I'm tatted.
Yeah.
But the aspect of her that I play that is a piece of me is anger issues.
Yeah.
I, for a long time, had unnoticed anger issues. I wasn't sitting in school being told off for my anger or anything, but I did not know for a very, very long time that I struggled with anger.
Yeah.
And Thorn is a means for me to work on that. Please, before I go on, do not think that you can make a D&D character and it will fix your problem. It won't, but it helps.
Well,
It gently helps.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice source of reinforcement on top of what you should already be doing outside of it.
It's a good outlet, I guess, to vent, not like by venting onto other people.
No.
But even just like writing about your character.
That's also a big part of it,
yeah.
Even just writing about backstories. Or I think for a lot of players out there, if your character would, write a journal.
Yes,
Writing
I love my journal.
It's such a good way for you to keep track of your notes, but also to like get your feelings out.
I don't even write notes when we're playing.
No.
I just write in the character journal.
Your little character journal.
Yeah.
Which works.
Yeah.
Because also, to be fair, it's not hard. It's not difficult for you to remember what happened last session because we talk about it all the time.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, regarding like this horror story and like character death and stuff, I just don't think it's morally okay to slaughter a character. unless you've discussed with your group,
unless it's been talked about previously.
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't think that's okay to just rip a character away
No.
when it means something to someone. I know full well that, like, I mean, gentle spoilers for Campaign 3
Yep.
of Critical Role.
Mm-hmm.
There was a character that passed, and it was clear that the player had a discussion with the DM.
Yep.
I am not done with this character's story. I think they said that in an interview.
Yeah.
They said it in an
They
interview.
sat down and talked, and they're like, "Hey, their story isn't done.
Yeah.
I'm not done telling their story. Is there a way that we can work around this and bring them back?" And Matt was like, yeah, let's do that. And it was one of the best arcs in the campaign, in my opinion. In my personal opinion.
Yeah.
It was an amazing story of, like, overcoming trauma and overcoming your past and having a support system to get you out of that.
Yes.
And I think they've done it in a really beautiful way.
Yes. But that wouldn't have happened if the player DM discussion hadn't been opened about death in the character. And that's super important to get right.
Yes.
Yeah. So, before we ramble on about that, I think we should move on to the second one. Okay, so we're going to do one other D&D horror story because we talk too much and we're not going to be able to fit 3 in. So we'll keep the other one for the next episode.
Yep.
So just bear in mind, this one has a couple of triggers in it. So the triggers are also death. We've got some spiritual stuff, supernatural and ghosts. Also, there's genitalia, and there is non-consensual nudity.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of that in there. So just, if you're uncomfortable with that, please just skip a chunk in, and get your way through it. So it comes from a user. It's a player, and their username is Pat_the_Patchy.
Oh.
Pat the Patchy.
Pat the Patchy.
So yeah, and the title is DM asks my character what his schlong looks like. ...
Oh.
Yeah. So this is it's already a poor start with this one.
Yeah.
This is a longer one, so it's going to take me a little hot minute to read it. So
okay, I'll zip up.
get comfortable for 5 minutes. This post details my first escapade into D&D and how wild it is that I still love the game as much as I do despite the very strange start. This story details a game I, male, took part in high school, alongside 5 of my friends at the time. 3 guys, DM, Bard and Rogue, and 2 girls. So I think it's 6 players in total between the storyteller, 3 other guys, and 2 girls. Who I believe were playing a wizard and a sorcerer, ? It's been so long I don't remember. This story mostly concerns the DM, Bard, and Rogue, the 3 guys.
Okay.
As I said, it was my first foray into everything, and that included character creation. I was given no guidance, other than D&D Beyond will tell you everything you need to know. I learned later that, oh boy, does it not. I decided to play as a gold dragonborn. Cool choice.
Yeah.
Because that sounded cool. I see, they know. And I made a monk because I thought that being a pious wanderer might be an interesting idea.
Yeah.
We were supposed to make the characters beforehand using point buy and just jump right into things. I wish I had the character sheet. I wish I had the character sheet because man was it unoptimized. We're talking con as a dump stat, low dex and whiz, high intelligence and charisma, and middling strength. Essentially, the worst monk, mechanically speaking. The DM looks at it and says, "That's really bad," and doesn't let me change anything. Fine, I can deal with it. There are other better party members. Pause. I'm sorry. What the fuck?
Oh my god. I think we had so many sit downs before I joined your campaign and going over the character sheet and like trying to work out.
And changing things.
Yeah, we changed so much before we sat down.
Do you know why? Do you know why we changed things?
Why did we change things?
Because having fun is the most fucking important thing.
Yeah.
Having a character you look at, and if someone else turns around and says, "Oh, this character is really bad," and you're like, "Oh, is that not going to be fun then?" Let them change it. Mental. Anyway, continuing on. We do the classic thing. Meet in a tavern, fight some goblins, get some coin, do more fights, And it's at this time I realise that my character is lacking in the stats it needs.
Mm-hmm.
So when the DM tells me I find a ring that gives me a +1 wisdom, I'm super pumped. This is exactly what I needed. Imagine my surprise when Rogue asks to steal it from me. And the DM allows it.
Oof.
Two very bad things. I'm sorry, if you're playing a rogue out there and you want to do something like kleptomania, discuss it with your fellow players.
Can I just say, bar being a rogue, just any character.
Yeah.
Don't just take stuff.
See, if you're going to take things from people, I think you should to ask people, are you okay with things being stolen?
Yeah,
from
like
your
out
character?
of character.
Yeah.
That should be a discussion.
And like I know I've been a DM in several campaigns where like people have stolen stuff from each other. When I did Curse of Strahd, that happened. And it certain tables it's fine, some tables it's not.
Yeah.
Certain tables it brings tension, but like it's not actually because they don't think you should have done it. It might have brought story stuff and all
Yeah,
that.
tension's good when it's warranted.
But I think getting this brand new item for something that's really important to your character, and then just the character being like, I want it.
Oh, I'd start swinging.
Crazy. Anyway, so I lose the ring. Later, my character notices the ring missing, as you would looking at your hands. That was me adding that bit, by the way.
Yep.
And spies that the rogue has it. I confront the rogue, who passes it to Bard, again allowed by the DM. At this point, I am getting fed up with the shenanigans of these people who are messing about just to be rude, so I swing at the rogue. In the game, obviously.
What did I say? Start swinging.
Well, I think that thankfully they swung in game, although maybe they should have swung IRL.
Yeah.
Thus starts the inter-party combat, where everyone dogpiles on my character, annihilating him over something that presumably the DM had created to help me out. Fine. I knew enough about D&D to know that I will most likely make a new character who can be more optimized. Wrong.
God. Just let him die.
I spent the next 2 sessions as a sort of force ghost, able to see and hear the party with limited communication, but unable to interact with the larger world or any NPCs we came across.
So watching?
Just watching people play D&D.
What?
Which, by the way, people can do. Like, people love spectating D&D, but not when you
you're-
want to play. Eventually, we come to an area that allows me to be resurrected. Finally, I think, I can get back to playing the game as normal. Maybe I can get the ring back, or maybe someone will apologize for killing me. What happens next is probably what you all came to read.
Oh, God.
The DM describes my resurrection, and then asks what I do. I tell him that I would go over to the rogue and ask for an apology for killing me. But you don't have any clothes on, the DM says. Now, I'm not the only one to talk. I'm not one to talk about bringing someone back from the dead works. Sorry, let me reread that. Now, I am not one to talk about how bringing someone back from the dead works, or as to how or why I should have my gear. But I figured I would at least be modest and not in the nude. Fine. My character runs off and looks for some clothes to protect his modesty. The DM has me roll an investigation to see if I can even find clothes.
Oh, just give the boy some clothes.
Why? What fun does this grant anyone, you know?
What is going on?
And I get lucky with a high roll. Bad wisdom, remember? Question mark. So I start putting clothes on when Bard asks, would we see his penis? When he was brought back? You said he didn't have any clothes on. To which I, stunned, reply, I would have covered myself as I went to look for the clothes, I guess. Clearly, in that regard, reply, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know? Rogue then asks to stealth to see if he can, quote, sneak a peek. It is at this point myself and the rest of the party, which I presume is the 2 female members of the party they referred to earlier, are deeply uncomfortable with the conversation. It is clear that the DM, Bard, and Rogue are enjoying it, though. The DM allows it. Rogue rolls, and it's low. Whew, I'm safe. That passes, the DM says. He gets a good look. Describe what Rogue sees. what does Monk's
No.
penis look like?
No, 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 no.
I don't answer and try to move us along. The DM asks again. I refuse. The DM then tells the rogue, "It's whatever you like then." To which we then get to hear an in-detail description from Rogue about what he thinks. The session ended pretty soon after that, and that was the last time I ever played with that group. Little epilogue note. As bad as that was, I still liked the idea of D&D and got very lucky that I met people later who have helped me both play and learn to DM games. But yeah, that's all for now. May the wind be in your sails and your stars shine above. What cute way to end that.
Very cute.
It's
I
very
like that.
cute. Clearly someone who's very well adjusted and understands just how fucking weird that is.
Can I just say, that is why consent forms
Yes.
are such a necessary thing to implement.
100%. I think I'm not calling DMs out there irresponsible for not having them, because I 100% started campaigns without them.
Yeah. I think, was it me that, like, got you one? I
Yeah.
was like,
Like
please, can you do this?
I think I maybe had a brief conversation with people about like, is there anything uncomfortable? But getting a formal consent form
Yeah.
where people can just tick boxes. I love ones where you can tick greens, ambers, and
Yeah.
reds for like how.
Yeah, that's like the one I sent to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you can tick red, like, oh, I definitely don't want this. I don't want say it's nudity. Red, I don't want nudity in this campaign. Or you can put amber. Okay, nudity's fine if it's done tastefully, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. I mean, a lot of cases, people don't want to play smutty campaigns
Yeah,
that have.
usually things like that are fine as long as it's not sexual.
Yes.
Like, there's nothing wrong with like someone taking their top off because they're like, yeah, I don't know, washing themselves in a river or.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of campaigns can be absolutely fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at like Critical Role, for example, clearly they're comfortable enough with each other to
Yeah.
have like nudity scenes amongst each other, to have sex scenes.
Yeah.
Now, they're not saying describing the
Yeah,
sex,
fade to black.
but it's fade to black.
Yeah.
That's how I like to run, that kind of stuff in my games.
Mm-hmm.
So, in this situation, without checking before anyone, not even just the player in question, but there's also other players having to watch this
Who are
happen.
clearly uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's just not good.
No.
It's clearly a case of like a DM who doesn't know why they're DMing. Do you know what I mean? They think they're there because it's fun.
No, I feel like DMs are it's in the sort of job description to be like mediators.
Yes, you're
and,
the
and
rules.
stop things before they get a bit too far.
Yeah.
Not encourage them.
At the end of the day, like the DM, you are like judge, jury, and executioner.
Mm-hmm.
You are and it's not a power trip thing. It's about being
No.
the umpire.
Yeah.
You're there to keep things okay
Yeah.
and stuff. I know full well as a DM, I've like failed to mediate situations before, and like those are things I need to learn from and grow from so that I can become a more proficient DM.
Yeah.
But in this situation, like this DM didn't let the guy optimize his character after he'd like built it wrong because Bro doesn't know how to make a D&D character yet, and that's
Fair.
very fair.
Fair. We've been there.
But then gets put into a case of like this Force Ghost thing where like he's not playing
I
for
don't
like
know,
2 sessions.
Yeah, it all just sounds very sadistic in
Yes, that's actually a really good point. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very someone getting a kind of level of pleasure out of
nature. Yeah,
putting
it's
someone
like,
through some
almost like
shite.
he's getting off to it in a way, which is gross.
But also like the other players like enjoying humiliating their
It's
other
just,
character.
I just, even as like a friend,
Yeah.
I just couldn't imagine doing that to like someone else's character.
Yeah, I think this is a case where like these people, because a lot of times when people play D&D, they play with not necessarily like close friends. They'll just play with people they've met to play
Yeah.
D&D for, which is completely valid. I've never had to. No, I lie. I've done it online,
Yeah.
but in like person, I've never like had like a group of strangers that I've played D&D with. But a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And in this situation, yeah, like you've just got such a bad roll of the dice because like if he's saying that 3 of these characters, 3 of these people in this group out of a group of 6 were like wrong-uns, it's really bad.
That's
you
really
know,
bad.
because it's not when you have one problem player, usually that can be sorted by the group coming together
Yeah.
and a lot of communication. But in this situation, that's just a rotten group with a few good eggs in it.
I hope the other ones got out.
I imagine so. You know, there's no way that like you can endure a kind of really rotten DM like that for a long time.
No.
Usually, you just you stop having fun and you leave. Um, but yeah, especially with things like nudity and sex and triggering topics, like it's just strange and it's really uncomfortable.
Saw so many like horror stories in that subreddit of DMs, or even just like players and DMs sort of using it as a way to like enact their like really sick like fantasies onto players.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's so gross because you can do that, fair enough, but have everyone be in on it. Make your own group specifically for that.
Like, when it comes to so many niches, say let's like in two different directions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have like people who want to do really smutty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
See if you want to be super smutty and describe everything and
Yeah.
get really into it. Valid.
Yeah,
Go
fair.
do it. It's in my head, it's no different than someone who wants to sit and read a smut novel.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna sit and talk about it and do these things with people, oh my god, make sure that's what they want to do.
Yes.
Make sure everyone there is as into it as you are.
Yeah.
If they're not, this is not a safe thing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I get like paranoid even like having a character kiss another character. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, what if like people are uncomfortable?
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to sit and approach another player and be like, I kiss you.
Yeah.
And it's like, because you don't know if they want that.
Yeah.
They might not. So you usually just talk.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, as a DM, like, I think I would never mind if, like, a player contacted another player and they were like, oh, by the way, my character is getting feelings for your character.
Yeah.
Would kissing them be okay?
Yeah.
That kind
That's
of
why
thing.
I've saw a lot of it. Because a thing I don't like is when people just say their characters do something to another character. Whereas I've saw like a lot more people be like, oh, can I kiss you? Like, can I hold your hand? Can I do this?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you don't want to just enact that on someone else's character. Because, yeah, you can separate yourself from the character, but also you're the one acting it.
This is
And it's awkward sometimes.
This for me is, it's not just a DM technique, definitely useful, very useful for DMs, but also for players. Knowing how to phrase yourself
Yes.
when you're doing these things, because sometimes, yeah, fair enough. If say like you've been having a budding romance with another player's character, and you don't want to like spoil it, you know, maybe you're that kind of group, you want to surprise them. You have to say something like, "My character approaches you, and my eyes look down at your lips and he appears to have the intent to kiss you." And that tees you up to say, my character draws away,
Yeah.
or my character leans in.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. But like, or in the same situation with other stuff, like say something like where like characters are being playful, like my character approaches you looking to kind of like be a bit playful and like give you a noogie or something like that. And your character can be like, I don't think he'd let that happen.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, that seems fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he lets it. You know, or like he resists, but he's letting it happen. Like, that kind of thing. It's all about communication. I think a lot of people, yeah, as you said, like, they'll just say, my character grabs their hand.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Have you given them an opportunity to say, like, whether they'd let it happen or
Yeah.
whatever?
Unless it's like already a pre-established thing of like.
Unless you know your group is
Yeah.
very comfortable, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And that's up to you all to check.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really strange one.
I
That.
don't like that.
It was really, really weird. Yeah, so we've read a couple of horror stories. We've chatted about how we got into D&D. So just before we kind of close things up, I think we're just gonna have a wee chat about like, I don't know, like us. I think it's important to have like a little segment where we maybe talk about like things we've been watching, things we've been reading, things we've been kind of doing recently. I know you've been like uploading more on your channel.
Yeah, I have.
Plugging Jade Adelaide. It's a fantastic channel. Every video has been informative for me.
Thank you.
I think the biggest thing about your channel is like it gives a space for people who like aren't up to date like I am. I'm not chronically online about every single topic.
Like I am.
Like, but there's a lot of things like politically or like socially that that go unnoticed for me, and that I'll sit and I have the privilege of spending a lot of my time with you, so I get to see you during the editing process and during the filming process and stuff, and I'll maybe kind of ask you what you're working on. But I'll leave it until the video comes out because they genuinely do give me information and a little laugh and a giggle here or there. But you tell me about things that are happening that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I think a big thing is I get, not a lot, but I've gotten some comments which heavily outweigh, all the lovely ones.
Yeah.
Of people being like, oh, why are you talking about so-and-so, like you're promoting it, or people are going to search for it now and find all the bad stuff you're talking about.
Yeah.
But then I've got like 200 times more comments being like, thank you for like letting me know about this, I didn't know about this. I had saw this person before, but I didn't know they were doing bad stuff, so like I'm going to stop supporting them now.
Yeah.
And it's just a case of like, I know that bad people are going to find bad stuff regardless of what I say and what I do.
Yes.
But by not saying anything at all, you're continuing it to happen. Like, you're just letting it happen because no one knows about it and it goes unnoticed. And then if no one talks about it, nothing's going to get done about it.
This is it. We're like, the core part of your channel is you're not coming in as like a legal expert, for example,
No.
who's taking people down.
No.
It's about making sure that everyone and everyday people and like people in mainstream, media and all this are up to date and are understanding like that there's some nasty shit going on out there that they're kind of closing their ears to. I think more than ever nowadays, with how hard everything is getting and how crazy the world's getting recently, we need to be aware and do what we can to kind of, even at the very least, be a bit proactive in defending ourselves against the weird shit out there, the bad
that's
shit.
The thing. Like, I've gotten other ones as well being like, why are you talking about online stuff? Why aren't you talking about real world issues? And it's like, well, I have been.
Yeah.
It's just no one cares to look at that. Like, I've had legal cases that I've been a part of, and I've worked with police and caseworkers, and I've done real world stuff. It's just and I've spoken up about it for years now.
Yes.
But it's only now that my other content is getting some recognition that people want to question that advocacy and its importance, because I don't think it's any less important than the other work I've done, about real world issues, because everything online seeps into real world.
Yes.
Everything I'm talking about has real world actions, and it's a domino effect. It doesn't just stop because it's online.
100%. I absolutely agree. But yeah, your channel's been doing well. I'm really, really, really proud of you.
It's been going for 3 months.
I am your number one biggest fan.
You're my 3rd subscriber.
Yeah, your 3rd subscriber after 2 of your own accounts.
Yes, 2 are mine.
And
One is like my personal, and then my other was like my dummy account in case I get blocked by people.
I've got the bronze medal for your first subscribers, and I also was your 69th subscriber with my YouTube account.
Yeah.
So the account that this will be uploaded to is the 69th subscriber to your YouTube, which is incredible.
We're currently on 4K.
4K.
I got my 420 screenshot.
Hell yeah.
4,000.
We're gonna fingers crossed this podcast blows up, becomes super massive. We do 100 episodes, and then in the 100th episode we can say, oh my god, 10k subscribers or 100k subscribers or 1 million. Who knows? But
a million.
You never know.
You're crazy.
I am insane.
I'd be happy with 10.
10k would be fantastic.
I just meant 10 and 10. Period.
10 subscribers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We were cheering at 10.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember when I got to 500.
I remember that.
That's crazy. And then like a day later it was like 1k. I was like, ah.
Because at the end of the day, like with your channel, it's not about numbers.
No.
It's fun. Seeing numbers go up is really exciting. And it's going to be the same with like the channel this is going up on, like my channel. I'm planning on doing like videos talking about D&D. Maybe eventually, if there's demand for it, I'd be really interested in looking at like gaming stuff, because I'm all into that.
Yeah.
I'm super into the movie industry and like television, so especially around superheroes or fantasy and sci-fi and comic books and all that. I'm a nerd. I love all this stuff. So I'm always open to doing that kind of stuff. But I'm starting with D&D because it's such a core to who I am now.
Yeah.
And
It also feels easier to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's something you and I share a lot about. So
Yeah.
starting with this podcast, for example, is just kind of, it's something very nice for us to channel that
Yeah.
creative energy into.
Even like regardless of putting it out anywhere,
Yeah,
it's nice to just yap.
it's lovely to yap. But yeah, apart from that, like recently, I'm trying to think more like less serious.
We've been watching Daredevil.
We have, because this will be going out as like Daredevil Born Again is like still coming out. The very first season of that in 2025, and you, before meeting me, had never watched Daredevil,
No.
and
Not because I didn't want to,
yeah,
but I loved Jessica Jones
Yes.
season 1.
yes,
But I found it so triggering that I can never watch season 2.
it's a pretty brutal watch. I'll
and,
tell you that.
And therefore, I never watched any of the other Marvel TV shows.
I was just
Well,
such
like the old Netflix ones.
I was an absolute Marvel head in my teen years, so
I was a DC girly.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been watching Daredevil. We're just about to finish season 3.
I've got 1 episode left.
We've got 1 episode left.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I think it's my favorite season.
Season 3?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100% for me.
Yeah.
Everything with Poindexter.
It's like I know, like no one in like the core 3 are gonna die or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is still feel like they might.
It's there's weight.
It's like you don't know, like, oh,
You don't know
fuck.
what might
like,
happen to
I
them.
know they're not gonna, but like what if?
What if? So we've been watching that. It's been really fun. We also just finished season 3 of Invincible.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I think the main thing I recall from watching season 3 was, yes, there was all these cool fights and major character moments and all this, and a cool story. Everything with Paraplex was insane. But do you know, I remember more than anything is that cold open of an episode with the 2 supervillains that rob the
Oh
bank.
my god. Yeah.
I'm still affected by that.
Because that was just thrown
They
in
are.
there.
Yeah, they just did like
I forgot about that.
we cold open with these 2 characters that there was in season 1,
That was brutal.
and I'm just like,
Absolutely brutal.
but that's what Invincible does well, and it has for all 3 seasons. Is
Yeah.
like pulling the camera out. What?
Oh my god, what was his name? The guy with his family.
Oh, Paraplex.
Oh yeah.
Spoiler warning.
Oh
Heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. You and me both were shocked to the gills.
we were both sitting with like our hands over our mouths for
Yeah.
like the entire
I
time.
had the like 2017 like Snapchat girl pose of like my hand over my mouth.
No, it's the nose.
Oh, hand over the nose, of course.
It's the yeah.
But yeah, Invincible does that really well in terms of like drawing out and just putting us with 2 characters we may not know, and just giving us 5 minutes with them and making you really feel for
So
them.
it reminded me of The Last of Us.
The episodes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't even need to.
Don't even need to say it.
Nope.
The
you know
episode.
The Strawberries.
Strawberries.
Yep.
Heartbreaking.
Oh my god.
I'm trying to think what else we've been up to. I
Or
will
in
say
Loch Lomond.
we are in Loch Lomond. So just to be clear, I'm not going to say where we are because you never know. But you never know who wants to know where you live. But
We don't live here.
We don't-
We're going tomorrow.
we don't live in Loch Lomond.
No.
However, we are in a log cabin for a little kind of 2-day
Treehouse.
a tree house, yeah, a wee getaway. And so yeah, it's quite insane filming our very first podcast in like what's equivalent to like a log cabin hotel room thing. But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous out here. Been an absolute treat. We've been experimenting with barbecues and log fires
Yeah.
and jacuzzis that are way too loud.
Oh my god, so loud.
Yeah, nice jacuzzis.
To
though.
be fair though, like any jacuzzi's
It's true.
pretty loud. I don't think
It's
I've
very
ever been
true.
in a quiet jacuzzi.
That's true. Just was a bit astounded by how quiet it is out here in the kind of Scottish north. Not that far north, honestly, but
No.
northish.
Yeah.
But just how quiet it gets out here.
I love it up north so much. Like I've been to the Outer Hebrides before in the Isle of Skye, and it's just it always amazes me how far you have to go before you see any form of civilization or like just a person.
Yeah.
Because you can drive for so long. Like, I mean, people know, like, the road you drive through Loch Lomond when it's, like, right next to you on, like, your right-hand side.
Yeah.
And you're just going up, and there is, like, no one.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. I love it.
It's fantastic
So
over here.
quiet.
I'm going to retire up here, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The sheep.
With the sheep. We're going to have 17 sheep, and they're all going to be called Mickey.
You're not funny.
I'm not, no.
See how my face is, like, so straight right now, and I'm not laughing?
Brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else? I mean, you and I, you're in college and I'm in university.
Oh, don't. I'm not.
We're in assessment season right now. It's hell out here.
I've got, oh my god, next week, I'm going to need to study, like, the entire week.
Yeah.
My graded unit's on the 31st.
I have several assessments due. I actually should be working on an assessment right now, but I thought doing the podcast would be more fun.
I've done 4 of my closed books.
How incredible. Look
So,
at you go.
yeah, but now I basically have to do like 3 in one day.
Well, you're going to be okay.
No, I'm not.
You've smashed all the ones before.
Don't know about that.
Yeah, I think, apart from
Is
that,
that us?
I think that's us. I think we have wrapped our first podcast episode.
Can we go make a burger now?
Yeah, we're going to go and make burgers.
Bagel burger.
Bagel burgers.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. Thank you for listening, guys. If anyone here is listening that isn't one of our own friends, we're very happy to have you for our very first episode, and we are very excited to make more. And if anyone at all has thoughts about what we've said or what you'd like to hear us talk about, subjects for the future. Also, if you have your own D&D horror stories, there's an email account attached to this channel. Just send us an email, or just comment under this video, and yeah, tell us about.
I might even make like a Google form so it's like anonymous.
Yes, that'll be very good. But yeah, just contact us and tell us what you think, or what you'd like to see, and we will be back next episode.
Yippee!
Yippee!
Bye!